on location for this episode of Council Bluffs today. I'm Todd Studer. My good friend Keith Jones is here, and we have made our way to the Porch in Council Bluffs for lunch with something in mind. Is the reason that we did this. You first mentioned, by the way, thanks for being here.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for having me. By the way, I'm the other Keith Jones.
That's true. Yes,
So,
there was a Keith Jones that was just appointed to the Potawatomi County Board of Supervisors. Not this Keith Jones. No, there's a different one. It was a few years ago that you first told me about your chicken wing rating system, and I thought, there's a whole podcast there. How long have you been doing this?
I looked up in the archives, the records, which, by the way, the records are just a note on my phone.
Okay.
It's now been shared with the other members of the committee. But we started, I look back, it was in 2021 that we started doing the Wing Quest.
So this has been going on for about 5 years. And how widespread have you gone with your wing quest?
Good question. So there's so many great wing places, in fact, over 20 in Council Bluffs alone,
Okay.
that you could spend a lot of time. You could easily spend a year just going to all those places and then starting over and probably never have to leave Council Bluffs. We have, however, done a short venture into Omaha. We also went to a place up in Takema, Nebraska called the Tipsy Pig.
I've heard of that.
And I think there might have even been a foray into a wing place in Kansas City at one time.
Well, the question that pops up immediately is, where's your favorite?
Right.
Which I don't know if can you really narrow it down that far? Because you're going to have things that you really like about some things and maybe not as much on something else, but they're all different levels. There are different nuances to it. And
Right.
also, what mood are you in that day?
Exactly. And you just hit on the fun of the whole thing. It's really, truth be told, subjective.
Yeah.
As you know, what do you like? And that can be different for each person. But for the purpose of the Wing Quest, we kind of defined what that meant. And we can go through that. I think it might be helpful for people to understand that. But as far as which one is the best, I could give you a list. I would prefer to give a list of the ones that we rated 4.5 or 5, rather than saying this one is my favorite, because it's impossible to say. It's kind of like, what's your favorite song? I hate that question.
Yeah.
Because it's really more about what's currently in your top 10 playlists. That's a better question.
And even then, it's going to change. When it comes to music, I went through my Warren Zevon period, and I was listening to entire albums for a while, and I was very. If you'd asked me then,
Yes.
I probably would have said Lawyers, Guns, and Money, but now it would be something different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same with Wings.
All right, so your wing star system, and let me make an adjustment here on this camera before we completely change things over. This is how we do things.
Now they can see the paperwork.
Yeah, now they can see the paperwork, but we need the paperwork because this is important work that we're doing here. So let's just start. What hits a 5? You've hit 5 stars.
Yeah.
How good does it have to be to get that rating from you?
So
Good mornings start with peace of mind. My Nurse Healthcare provides professional in-home support where it matters most, helping individuals maintain comfort, dignity, and independence in their daily lives. Their experienced nursing team focuses on personalized care, clear communication, and supporting families through every step of the process. It is healthcare built on trust, compassion, and real relationships. Learn more at mynursehealthcare.com. If you have a leak, a clogged drain, or even if you're planning a big remodel, Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. With fast, reliable service and expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. They're locally owned and trusted and take pride in doing the job right the first time. Residential or commercial, big or small, when plumbing problems strike, they're the ones to call. Visit waldsteinplumbing.com.
by the way, this was done by a committee. This is not just me. I don't want to take all the credit for it. We can talk about that if you'd like. But to answer your question, 5 stars really is defined by exceptional level of taste and addiction level deliciousness, which I think is just the beautiful phrasing there. I think my wife gets credit for that. That's the level. Addiction level deliciousness is a 5.
You even put the little emojis next to this. And by the way,
Yeah.
with this going back 5 years, AI was not mainstream back then.
Correct.
So these are your words.
These
These are not generated.
Human generated words that were created by a member of the committee.
Okay, so if something goes from a 5 to a 4,
Yes.
what is it lacking that
Right.
made it lose a star?
Right. So as you can see here, a 4 would be something that's very good, well executed, but missing some key aspects. Now here's the interesting part about that. Key aspects can vary depending on the committee member who's rating it. So you get a collection of opinions, and you have to sort of juggle that, which is impossible for a restaurant to set out and say, we're going to make the best wings in town. It's hard to say that because it depends on the beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Right. Well, and as we were talking to, like Brandy made sure we're not supposed to put her on camera today, but we were talking about spice levels.
Right.
And for her, she said, "I'm a big baby. I don't like real spicy, and this is good." So other people really like it.
Correct.
Crazy spicy. I'm not one of those people.
I'm not either.
I would prefer that my ears didn't bleed
Right.
as I'm eating.
Right. Indeed. Yeah, I agree. I'm not a hot spice person either. I do like a little spice.
Yeah.
I have onion in just about any dish that I make, so I like some flavor.
Right.
But I am not the one who says, "Oh yeah, the hottest wing, I need that."
Right.
Now on our committee, that is my wife.
She likes that.
My wife will eat the hottest wing to say that she was able to do so.
So it's really more of a bragging point then.
I mean, yes, she can brag.
Why do you climb the mountain? Because it's there?
Right.
Yeah.
She's able to do it. It's, to me, where it gets to be the point of being uncomfortable. I'm like, this isn't why I came to eat wings.
Yeah.
So that's my cutoff point. When it gets to be uncomfortable, hot is fine. If I have to drink some water or beer or what have you, that's fine. But when it's uncomfortable and I'm like grasping desperately for a whole glass full of water, that's the end point for me.
Yeah, it's ceased to be a good time, and it's more of a conversation piece for later. All right, if you're dropping,
I don't like to be the guy crying at the dive bar. Right. I don't like to be that guy.
No, we're swimming in the same pool. Okay, moving from a 4 to a 3.
Yes.
So what has it now lost? You're now middle of the road.
Yeah. So 3 is good, and it's important to just kind of understand that. I think that, if you're just going to try to fill the hole that's in your stomach and you want to get something to eat and wings sound good, a good rating would be a good place to go, and you're not going to complain. You're not going to feel like you were shorted in some way. You're just not going to go back and crave that same taste.
I'm thinking a few chain restaurants I've been to would fit into that category, but we're not going to name any names.
We're not going to name any names. Indeed, I agree. But yes, exactly. So it would be something that it does the job that it's supposed to do. It fills your belly. You move on. You gain some sustenance, but it's not something that you're going to tell others about, probably. And it's not something that you're going to aspire to say, I need to get a group of friends together and go back there next Friday night because these wings are something special.
Right. So, as an example, 3 would be if somebody asked you, hey, how are their wings? You would say, hey, nothing wrong with them. They're good.
They're good.
But you're not going out of your way to tell people about those wings.
Right.
Because I have had meals in some restaurants that I went out of my way to tell people about that place. this is top level. This is where you should go.
Correct.
So there's the difference between there. Now, as we make our way down, and this is only a 5-star rating system, so
Right.
moving quickly down to number 2. And to me, 2 is all right. We're probably in an area that I'm not real happy with my meal.
Here's how I would explain 2. The words say fair, pretty okay, but missing some key aspects. I would say a 2 rating is one where you're not quite going to complain to the server or the restaurant owner, but that's the best thing you can say. We went, we had the wings, we ate them.
I'm no longer hungry.
I'm not hungry. I am not going to expound any further on the experience.
Does that happen to you much?
Rare.
Rare?
It is very rare. I did look through some of the quotes, which, by the way, I didn't share with you, simply because those quotes are real, live, raw feedback. Oftentimes, wings are sold in, dive bar establishments, places like that, as well as many other, chains and things like that. But the places we like to go are the authentic, local ownership type places. And so,
not a lot of pretentious going on in there.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, when you go to a place like that, you feel like you're at home, you let your hair down. And so, some of the comments could be, not necessarily appropriate to share in a wide audience.
Right.
They were real raw feedback for that wing.
Okay.
Experience.
Well, as we have wings coming in, and we promised we wouldn't show Brandy, so we're just going to slide them in.
Go. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So,
Maybe more napkins.
yeah, we're probably there. Which of these is which? Do we know?
So I think that one is mango habanero.
This is the mango habanero. This one here, and
We have to taste it. I don't know stuff.
and this one would be kicking bourbon. I don't know.
That might be mango, kitten bourbon.
All right, let's see.
Both low is the darker orange, and the mango habanero.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I think that's the mango habanero, and that's the kicking bourbon. And you went with.
So I have buffalo, and then I have the kickin' bourbon.
So we each went with kicking bourbon, mainly because it has the name bourbon in it. That's why I did it. That's why I went with it. Okay, so quickly then, before we try these, and by the way, I'm not worried about these hitting the just 1 star.
These are not going to hit the 1 star.
No.
I can promise you, because I've had them before. So.
So what is the 1 star? What does that mean?
1 star is poor. Would rather have something else on the menu entirely.
Has anyone in your committee had a number 1 experience?
I'm sure that they have. I don't have any of those recorded, honestly,
Okay.
where, it was a consensus.
Right.
There was a place, the shall remain nameless, that was not a locally owned establishment, where there was definitely consensus among the committee that we would have rather had something else on the menu entirely. So it's sort of like, yes, they offer wings.
Yes.
We cross them off the wing list forever, going back to for that purpose.
All right. So here is where the problem comes in with what it is that we are doing. Obviously, I want to try to stay as clean as possible on camera. I don't know how we're going to do that.
It's not gonna happen.
And I really enjoy that podcast Hot Ones.
Yeah.
That guy is.
Sure.
It's a really entertaining podcast, and it's a cool concept.
Right.
Continue the interviews as they just get hotter and hotter.
Right.
And how can you do that? That's not what we're doing here.
No.
Because we're pretty certain that these are kind of in the medium range is where we're at.
Medium to spicy, probably.
Okay.
Is where I'd categorize them. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's. Well, by the way, we're not going to make you sit here and watch us eat all of these wings, but we are going to try them just to see where they're at.
Right. Good idea.
And here's two. And I've told you this story before, but I'm going to say it publicly on camera now. I had an idea probably 25 years ago that still to this day no one has done, and it comes to these little cups of sauce, whether it be blue cheese, ranch, or whatever it comes out in. So when you take a flat, if you will, which by the way, I'm a flat guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Whole nother aspect of the wing challenge.
Right, exactly. So you have a flat,
Yes.
this is just bone on the end. So how do you get it in here? Because see, it it is. So imagine a wing cup that is shaped like this, as opposed to circular.
Right.
Now you could make it not as deep because it's going wider, so it doesn't actually hold anymore. But now you can get the entire wing into the cup, and yeah, that's a habanero one.
You've just shared that idea with the entire audience of your podcast listeners.
And no one has ever done it. No one has ever done it. And I can't believe that this hasn't been invented yet for wings, because every place that has wings has these circular cups.
Right. I have to agree. Never seen that.
I've never seen it. And I've thought for a long time, this is my $1 million idea. And of course, I've never done anything with it. Personally, I just want them. I want that cup to be able to do this. All right, here we go.
All right.
We're diving in with the mango habanero with blue cheese sauce. You're a ranch guy.
I'm a ranch guy, definitely.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
That's good. It's got a kick to it. I really like it though. I mean, I really like that. Do we want to go far enough to actually give a personal rating for the porch? Or
Well, I will say that this wing is absolutely, just from the first bite, it's at least a 4. And that's my own approach to rating. So I know it's at least a 4. But there's an aspect of this that probably is worth mentioning, and that is some people really like dry rub wings.
yes.
Others really like sauced wings. And then you, of course, have sauced and then cooked and then sauced again wings.
Right.
So there's an element of this that, transcends just a basic rating. And you could go off and just do dry rub wings if you wanted to. So.
Yeah, those do exist. I've never really been that guy. I kind of like the sauce. Part of it is getting messy. That's just part of the experience.
Right.
And doing your best. Oh, yeah, we're great. Thank you very much. So, do you personally go down to a decimal point, or do you keep it at the whole?
Decimal points are necessary.
Because I didn't know whether that was just from the consensus, or whether it's a personal thing that you will go to the decimal.
No, I'll even go to the decimal point, and from the consensus perspective, absolutely decimal points come into play. Because if you've got somebody that rates a 3 and another person that rates a 4.5, we're gonna average those together.
So when Dave Portnoy sees this, and he's following us,
right?
We're not stealing your. We're not going to 10. We're just going to 5. And these are wings. This is not pizza. As far as the habanero, mango habanero goes, I am going to give this. I'm going to give it a 4.4. I really like this.
All right.
I mean, this is it's a flavor that I haven't had before, and there is so many things to like about it.
Right. And, just like in grading, getting a 5 is the pinnacle.
Yeah.
So that's really something we should all aspire to. So you can name something a 5, but you've just said, like, there is nothing's
better than this. Yeah.
On this. And a 4.4 says this is really good.
Yeah.
And probably good enough that I'll tell others about it.
Yeah. Well, and I've told people about this place anyway. So
As have I.
All right. I'm moving over now, and we're going to try. This is called Kickin' Bourbon, which is probably bourbon flavor. I'm guessing there's no actual alcohol in it, because I wasn't ID'd before this, and you know how close I looked at 21. Yeah, that's very good. Wow. I like that a lot.
Isn't it fun? Isn't this wing quest just like
it is
of your time?
Yes, it is. This is whose idea was it to begin with? Was it yours? Did you go in with? Were you just a member of the committee for a while? Are there bylaws? I wonder. I don't know.
Those details are a little fuzzy, but I will say this about the history. As I mentioned, the official Wing Quest, where we were rating and had a committee, started in 2021. The committee includes myself and my wife, and then our good friends and neighbors, Scott and Michaela. And so we four are the ones that have done all of the rating to date.
Okay.
Others have perhaps been with us and maybe thrown in a thought or two, but just most of the time, in fact, probably 95% of the time, all of the ratings are purely just the opinion of we four on the committee,
Right.
based on this scale right here.
Service Master Restore by Schmader knows it can be hard to get things back to normal when you've suffered serious property damage due to flooding, fire, or smoke, and that can oftentimes lead to mold, and you may be left with all sorts of questions about how to get your home or business back to normal. It's easy. You give Cindy Schmader a call with Service Master Restore by Schmader. Her phone number, 402-339-9911. Morning Coffee is brought to you by Keith Jones, your Edward Jones financial advisor in Council Bluffs. Learn how he can help you reach your financial goals. Visit edwardjones.com for more. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
So, and you know, we continue to aspire to expand, and we really, frankly, need to go back to a lot of places we've been and see. Perhaps we gave it a 3.5 rating before, and we need to, give them a chance again.
Maybe the chef changed.
Right,
Maybe they've got a new recipe.
new menu.
Yep, a lot of things. Okay, so as we're sitting here in the porch, just off of 24th Street in Council Bluffs.
Right.
I would consider this one of the can't miss places in Council
I
Bluffs.
would agree.
Are there others
There are
for
so-
for wings in Council Bluffs? And again, this is not an all-inclusive list.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
just a few people.
I would be remiss without naming two that come to mind immediately. One is, of course, in Council Bluffs, and that is Bertha's on North 16th Street.
Yep.
Bertha's has a great wing.
Watched a bowl game in there this year.
Great place to go. Great place to watch sports, especially wrestling, which is hard to find.
Yep.
They do a great job of broadcasting wrestling, which happens to be my favorite sport. So many times I've gone to Bertha's, watched wrestling, ate wings.
Yep.
The other place that comes to mind definitely is Denny's up in Crescent.
Yep.
Denny's has very good dry rub wings. They're
Okay.
mostly dry rub, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's what I get there. And that's one of those places when I think of dry rub wings, I think of Denny's, and I can immediately get a craving. Yes, let's
Yep.
do that.
I recently had wings at the Twisted Tail,
Mhm.
BB Town.
Uh-huh.
They're smoked
Uh-huh.
there. Those were very good. That
Twisted Tail is not yet on the list, but I will add that to
okay.
the short list of places we need to go soon.
Well, yeah, they're still. I call it local. They're a half an hour away.
They're
So they're pretty well local. All right, so we've.
good.
I'm hungry, and as I said, I don't want to submit you to sitting here for the rest of the episode and just watching us eat wings. So we're going to pause it and then come back and show you what kind of damage we did. So we'll do that right now. And wings have been consumed. I am sufficiently full, and I am very pleased with both of those choices.
Right.
The mango habanero and also the kickin' bourbon. They're
Right.
two great choices as far as I'm concerned here at the Porch in Council Bluffs.
I agree. The buffalo for me was just right, not too hot, and the kickin' bourbon, like, what a great way to have a unique wing that you don't get everywhere.
So how deep do you go into this with, did you go diving into the history of the wings as you were getting more into this? You wanted to be thorough.
I did want to be thorough. That is a trait that I like to aspire to, just develop some context before endeavoring in something like this. So I did look up the history, and what I found is that wings were certainly invented in Buffalo. As you might expect, there's a little bit of controversy as far as who originally really invented them. Most accounts give credit to a bar called the Anchor Bar
Okay.
and the Bellissimo family, I believe. But there's variations as to, was it the husband or the wife? It sounds like the husband asked the wife, mom and pop restaurant, to go ahead and make something to respond to a missed communication as far as an order that was put in for some element of chicken, and instead of getting what they wanted for their Italian sauce, they got the wings and drummies.
Ah.
And so the husband said, "Hey, can you do something with these?" And the wife, who was apparently the head chef at the time, said, "Yeah, I'll go ahead and fry those and put some buffalo sauce on them, some spicy sauce."
Right.
And
Which
so,
typically is a Tabasco, and there's a couple other ingredients.
a lot of people use Frank's Red Hot.
Yeah.
A lot of people use, other spicy sort of sauces, but that's a whole nother thing. There's another account of someone else from Buffalo that actually was basically using a sauce on chicken wings long before the fame of Buffalo really started.
Well, and sauce is something else. Is it truly a buffalo wing? If you're getting just barbecue sauce on it, there's a lot of different things, variations in there.
Right?
To me, and this is just personal taste, it should have a little bit of heat to it.
Yeah.
I'm not an over the top kind of heat,
Right.
but if it doesn't have any heat at all,
Right.
then it's just chicken.
Right.
But that's just my own personal preference.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're a flat guy.
Yeah, I think they taste better.
Have you been to a restaurant that did not cut them and had the drummy and the flat?
I have, but it was as part of a getting half a fried chicken, then it was just a wing.
Okay.
So
If you go to the Nutty Bar, I think it's called, or the Peanut. Actually, it's called the Peanut in
Okay.
Kansas City. They do not cut them in half. They give you the whole
wing.
wing.
So that's a burger, or I do extra crispy.
Have you had that?
I have had that. I didn't rate them because it was by myself. I didn't have the committee with me,
Okay.
so I didn't rate them. It was a lot. It was hard to get over. It's very different. It was, not that the food wasn't good, but it was just very different to have the entire flat and drummy right there attached and piling up the plate. It was hard to get over.
Well, I think the moral of this story is good wings can be had at the Porch because we just experienced that. There's a lot of places that have good wings in Council Bluffs and the surrounding areas.
Indeed.
And also they are subjective. So it's your own personal taste.
Right.
And it's your personal preference. But if you're eating boneless, you're not eating wings. So we'll just leave it at that.
We can agree on that. And I would just challenge people that are watching this podcast to, get a rating scale together. Feel free to use this one, by the way, but get a committee of close friends and get out somewhere and try our wings in Council Bluffs.
Is there a better way to spend an evening or a series of evenings than trying wings and sitting around and rating them? You guys really came on to something here. I mean, this is kind of cool.
It's fun. We enjoy it. And I think a lot of people will enjoy the debate as well.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
This is Keith Jones and wing connoisseur of Council Bluffs. We're gonna make you up a name tag.
That's my title. I will be proudly accepting that title. So thank you.
And we thank you for watching this episode of Council Bluffs today. We will be back soon with another. My name's Todd Studer. We'll see you then.